This deep dive is brought to you by BusinessLink. What if the reason you hate Sunday nights isn't actually because you dislike your job, but because you are fundamentally misusing your own brain?
Oh, that is a wild thought.
Right. I want you to imagine walking into your workplace tomorrow morning, and instead of bracing for that familiar low-level hum of exhaustion, you feel a genuine surge of energy.
Which sounds like a total fantasy for most people.
It really does.
Yeah.
Imagine stepping into an environment where your unique inherent superpowers are not just acknowledged on some annual performance review, but they are fully activated every single day.
Yeah, where you aren't just a cog in a machine.
Exactly. You feel deeply valued, and you know you are actively providing value to the people around you. It sounds like an absolute fantasy for most of the working world, but today we're looking at how that specific energized environment is intentionally engineered.
And it is completely doable.
It is. We have this fascinating stack of source material detailing the career, the philosophy, and the profound personal journey of Jessica Potts. She is an author, a strategist, and an expert in organizational culture.
Her work is just so incredibly relevant right now.
It really is. The mission for this deep dive is to distill her people-first approach to leadership so you can apply it to your own life and career. We are breaking down how to move from just surviving the week to actively designing your best days. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the professional framework she uses to create these high-impact cultures.
So to really understand her framework, you have to look at the engine driving her work as the president of Inspired Strategy Group, Inc. Her core philosophy operates on a very specific definition of value.
Okay, how so?
Well, she believes people do their best work when they feel valued and when they know they are actually of value. Traditional corporate structures usually define value purely through output.
Right, like how many units you moved or how many hours you build.
Exactly. Her framework requires a systemic alignment of a person's natural psychological strengths with what they are actually asked to do on a daily basis. She calls this her signature inspired action approach.
Which mobilizes teams by aligning four critical elements, right? Values, strengths, roles, and goals.
Yeah, that's the core of it.
As I was reading through how she structures that alignment, I actually kept picturing a high-performance car engine.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because you can buy the most expensive premium fuel on the market, you can polish the exterior until it gleams, but if just one spark plug is misfiring, the whole car shakes.
The engine just sputters.
Exactly. In this context, having an employee in a role that doesn't match their natural strength is that misfiring spark plug. The whole organizational system is compromised, and usually traditional management just yells at the spark plug to work harder.
Or they threaten to fire it.
Right. But Jessica's approach is stepping back and asking, wait, is this even a spark plug? Or is this a fuel injector that we've jammed into the wrong slot?
What's fascinating here is why stepping back to ask that question actually repairs the engine. Much of traditional corporate strategy focuses heavily on the goals and the roles part of her four-part equation.
Yeah, you receive a rigid job description, you are handed a quota, and you are just expected to contort your personality to make it happen.
Precisely. But Jessica brings a 10-year background in economic development, a Gallup coaching certification, and a practitioner certification from the LUME Institute.
Wait, I need to pause on human-centered design because that LUME certification is the linchpin, right?
Yeah, it signifies she blends human-centered design with strengths-based development.
But human-centered design is usually a concept tech companies use to make apps intuitive or even addictive. They design the user interface so the buttons are exactly where a human thumb naturally wants to rest.
Right, UI and UX.
How on earth do you apply UI and UX principles to actual human employees? Are we talking about optimizing their physical desk layout, or is there a deeper psychological application here? Because it sounds a bit like HR jargon.
I get why you'd say that. But think about the concept of friction in tech design. In software, friction is asking a user to click through 5 menus to find the checkout button. The user gets frustrated and leaves.
Okay, sure.
In an organizational culture, friction is taking an employee whose natural strength is deep, solitary analytical thinking and forcing them to lead a highly social, daily brainstorming meeting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they will eventually burn out no matter how much you pay them.
Exactly. Normally, we design products around innate human behavior. Jessica applies that exact same logic to designing the workplace itself. Instead of forcing human beings to adapt to a rigid, outdated corporate structure, You design the collaborative processes around the humans.
You remove the psychological friction. So
Yes,
you stop forcing the analytical thinker to be the cheerleader, and you stop forcing the naturally charismatic communicator to sit in a cubicle crunching spreadsheets all day.
precisely. You move past this passive idea of employee satisfaction, which is often just a metric indicating people aren't actively complaining.
Mm.
Instead, you move into true activation and innovation. You achieve this by leveraging positive psychology. You focus on what is naturally working well within a person's cognitive framework, and you amplify it, rather than spending all your energy trying to fix their weaknesses.
And she put this into practice recently in June 2026, hosting a workshop called Strengths Discovery Day, Unlock Your Superpowers.
Yeah, using the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Assessment.
But the goal wasn't just to hand people a fun personality quiz result to stick on their cubicle wall. It was about building tangible emotional intelligence and self-awareness.
Exactly. By identifying those unique talents, attendees could figure out how to communicate better and lead with actual purpose. Because her underlying philosophy dictates that leadership happens at all levels of an organization.
It does not just happen at the top of the org chart.
Right. When you understand your own strengths, when you know whether you are the spark plug or the fuel injector, you lead from wherever you are standing. You don't need a managerial title to influence the culture.
But understanding that philosophy professionally in a controlled workshop environment is one thing. Testing it when your entire world turns upside down is another completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's where it gets really interesting and heavy. We are moving from her professional theory into the ultimate harrowing test of those exact theories.
It is quite a shift.
It's one thing to teach resilience in a corporate seminar with whiteboards and sticky notes. It is an entirely different arena when those concepts meet a massive, terrifying life disruption. Let's look at the timeline, because it is surreal.
Yeah, it really is.
In November 2019, Jessica literally steps into a boxing ring. She was one of 28 first-time boxers participating in the Pearl Gloves charity boxing event.
And they raised over $200,000 for Niagara's fight against MS, performing in front of 1,300 supporters.
Which is incredible.
It was a massive physical and communal effort, aligning perfectly with her teachings on engagement and team building.
She is physically taking punches to fight for the MS community. But then, fast forward to January 2021, what she thought was just a routine follow-up appointment turns into a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis for herself.
Just unbelievable timing.
And because this is January 2021, the absolute height of the pandemic, she receives this life-altering diagnosis completely alone in a hospital, far away from home. I have to push back a bit on the application of her work here.
Okay, go ahead.
How unimaginably jarring must it be to dedicate your sweat and safety to fight for a cause in a boxing ring, only to find yourself fighting that exact same disease inside your own body just over a year later, completely isolated? Did her business frameworks actually hold up under that kind of existential weight?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is a resounding yes, though the irony of the situation is profound. When she received that diagnosis, it ushered in a deeply dark period.
Of course.
But she survived it by leaning on the 5 pillars of resilience. These pillars represent the very foundation of her professional work.
Which are building deep self-awareness, aligning your daily actions with your core values, leveraging your innate strengths, anchoring yourself in community support, and maintaining an optimistic focus on what you can control.
Exactly. These were not new concepts she had to invent in her hospital bed.
So the pillars of resilience she used to survive her diagnosis were essentially the human-centered design principles applied to her own crisis. She had to audit her own life.
Long before she knew she was going to be the one drowning in medical uncertainty, she was unconsciously building her own life raft.
Wow.
She had codified these pillars through her consulting work. When the disruption hit, she didn't have to start from scratch. She knew how to navigate uncertainty and change because she had spent her career helping entire organizations do the exact same thing.
The tools scale. I mean, navigating the uncertainty of a corporate restructuring requires the same foundational self-awareness and intentional action as navigating a terrifying medical diagnosis.
Right. Because she had spent her career helping entire organizations build resilience, she knew how to process the disruption in her own life without losing her sense of self.
It wasn't just academic theory meant for a PowerPoint presentation. It was a literal survival mechanism.
Going through that lived experience, navigating that dark period and coming out the other side only deepened her commitment to this work. She took everything she learned about surviving change with clarity and confidence, and she channeled it back out into the world.
So what does this all mean? How do you, listening to this right now, actually take this blueprint and use it?
Well, thankfully, you don't need to go through a traumatic medical event to realize you need to align your life.
Right. Jessica channeled her professional expertise and her intense personal survival story into actionable advice through her book, Best Day Ever: Uncovering Your Strengths and Discovering Your Passion.
It's such a practical resource.
It features 10 chapters of stories, questions, and practical exercises. And the core premise is a massive paradigm shift. You do not wait for a best day to magically happen to you.
You intentionally engineer your environment to match your talents. This raises an important question for you to consider about your own daily routine. How aligned are you, really?
Yeah, that's the real test.
The exercises in her book force you to examine whether your environment supports your natural strengths or constantly drains them. It is about intentional design. If you spend 80% of your day doing tasks that go against your natural grain, you are guaranteeing exhaustion.
Her entire career proves that navigating uncertainty requires profound self-awareness and an optimistic people-first approach. And she field tests this inspired action approach constantly, proving it works in the real world.
She certainly does.
She doesn't just write about community alignment, she actively builds it in the Niagara region. Instead of just listing off her resume, look at the theme of her work over the last decade. She won the 2018 Leadership Niagara Community Spirit Award.
Right, for working with organizations that collectively raised over $650,000 since 2015.
But more than the money, she is actively shaping the next generation to lead with these principles. She is a 2006 alumna for the Niagara Under 40, and since 2022, she has served as the Master of Ceremonies for their awards.
She is putting her theories into practice by celebrating and elevating emerging business leaders.
Exactly.
She also takes it directly into the classroom, serving as the business communications lead for Brock University's Goodman School of Business Professional Development Group, and previously being nominated for Part-Time Educator of the Year in her very first term at Niagara College.
Which demonstrates that her people-first approach translates perfectly to education.
Yeah, she is teaching students to identify their strengths before they even enter the corporate machinery. She models the resilience and the optimism she writes about, proving that human-centered design isn't just for software, it's for building a sustainable life.
The overarching lesson of this entire deep dive is that true leadership and genuine, unbreakable resilience cannot be forged by forcing yourself into a mold that wasn't made for you.
It comes from aligning who we fundamentally are with how we choose to live and how we choose to lead.
When you stop fighting your own natural design, you suddenly have the energy to fight for the things that actually matter. You tune the engine properly, and the vehicle finally runs the way it was always meant to.
By blending human-centered design with strengths-based development, you move from surviving the work week to actively thriving in it. You create environments where people feel valued and are of value.
We will leave you with this final thought to mull over today. If our best days are truly created by intentionally aligning our natural strengths with our daily roles, what hidden superpower are you currently forcing yourself to suppress just to fit into your current job description, and what would happen if you finally let it out?